The growing concern at the southern border, nearly 13,000 migrants huddling under a bridge in Texas, mostly from Haiti after that devastating earthquake.
If you are targeting Texas to come to, we're going to show up in force and shut down the border.
Now, more than ever, the United States of America is at war. The North seems to be unstoppable. The South is on a mission of destruction. There seems to be no way around this mass confusion. It's far from being over. The world is watching. This is the original Gangster Power Hour Podcast. Canada decided to re-elect Justin Trudeau. 15,000 Asians are asking for asylum. Texas don't want any part of that. China can count on General Milley to know all the exclusive details of Joe Biden's new formed alliance. Oh yeah, did I mention that we are most definitely at war? At war. Okay, folks, this is it. Sometime in life, we give a word, right? If someone gives you his word, you expect them to live up to their promises. But sometimes in life, people will not make on their words, meaning that they will not fulfill what they will not fulfill, they will not honor their own words. When I say that to you guys, it might not resonate, but if I mention to you guys the name of Justin Trudeau, now it might ring a bell. Am I correct? I'm talking about the leader, I'm talking about the prime minister, I'm talking about the president of Canada. Oh yeah, my own adoptive country. You know, sometimes we don't expect to be flawless, but I think that for this podcast, particularly, this is a flawless introduction. I just introduce you not only to what's going on in this world, in your world today, by talking about Justin Trudeau and talking about people that don't live up to their promises. That's what exactly Justin Trudeau represents. I just mentioned to you guys that I'm hearing this podcast live, of course, in reality, that is, from my adoptive country, Canada. All right, so that is something that I want to bring up because we're going to talk about how could someone in the middle of a pandemic like never seen before could ask his fellow citizen to go to an election. It's a gamble that Justin Trudeau took, and it's a gamble that paid. As we speak right now, it is confirmed that Justin Trudeau will form a minority government, and they will exactly go through what they went through it doesn't change a damn thing. Because Justin Trudeau does not live up to the hype. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to tune in to the original Gangster Power Hour Podcast every weekend. And don't forget that we are most definitely at war. Okay, folks, we're back for some more flexing and infotainment. Let's get back to the Big Papa. Okay, so, yeah, of course, Justin Trudeau doesn't live up to the hype. But Justin Trudeau got a big mouth. And as a matter of fact, Justin Trudeau's mouth should, there's an expression out there that's saying, put your mouth where your money is, or put your money where your mouth is, or something like that, right? And there's an expression I saw that goes along like, hey, I'm gonna slap the taste out of your mouth. Well, you know what? Like I said, Justin Trudeau got a big mouth, and guess what? I got a big heart. And in the next couple weeks, you guys gonna have the opportunity to follow one of the biggest lawsuits ever in our American history. And that lawsuit is about multiculturalism, it's about entrapment, of course, and it's about adoption. And what I'm sharing with you guys right now in this very new episode of the original Gangster Power Hour, it is something that not a movie script. There is something about that particular moment in time, my lawsuit, my book series, and what's going on in your world, in this world, that makes it very special. Now, let me tell you about my lawsuit against the government of Canada and Justin Trudeau. It's pretty much simple. I'm suing Mr. Trudeau and the government of Canada for $40 million. I'm not going to go into the details, but it is a lawsuit that is basically based on Justin Trudeau blackface scandal that happened a couple of years ago. And it is based also on racial profiling by the police. And it's based also on multiculturalism and my adoption by French Canadian. So all that put together is a ticking time bomb, and it is not quite yet because the lawsuit is not filed right now, but I'm in the process to do it, and I want you guys to follow along with me, and I want you guys to support me along in this process. So now I want to catch up with because I got a lot of things to talk about in this podcast, so we're going to move along. So I'm talking about a $40 million lawsuit against Justin Trudeau, blackface, against multiculturalism and adoption, and of course entrapment. Now we're going to hear, I want you guys to hear what Justin Trudeau said regarding systematic racism in Canada. Let's roll the tape, shall we?
So exactly how many times have you darkened your skin with makeup in an act that you have yourself described as racist?
I shared the moments that I recollected, but I recognize that it is something absolutely unacceptable to do. And I appreciate calling it makeup, but it was blackface. And that is just not right. It is something that people who live with the kind of discrimination that far too many people do because of the color of their skin, or their history, or their origins, or their language, or their religion, face on a regular basis. And I didn't see that from the layers of privilege that I have. There is systemic racism in Canada, and it means that Indigenous peoples, Black Canadians, and racialized Canadians are far more likely to suffer violence at the hands of the authorities and police.
That clip alone, what you just heard from the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, that clip alone tells you that this guy, there's something wrong. He just said out loud that systematic racism exists in Canada. And Canada is supposed to be the leader, the number one lead. It's supposed to be number one in the world when it comes to multiculturalism. Right? They're supposed to be the greatest country in the world, and they're supposed to be so much above the rest of the world when it comes to multiculturalism, of course. But the more you dig into Mr. Trudeau's life in blackface scandal, and I want you guys to do that. Dig into Mr. Trudeau blackface scandal, and you will realize that something's not right. And I want you as well to look at my website. It's called atotalfailure.com. And if you go on my website and if you scroll down all the way at the bottom, I got the lawsuit and I got a picture of Mr. Trudeau with makeup. And that picture dates back not when Mr. Trudeau was a teenager. No, the picture of Mr. Trudeau wearing black makeup as a disguise to impersonate a black musician or whatever date back when Mr. Trudeau was a college teacher and Mr. Trudeau was 30 years old, not 5 years old. I said to you guys, Mr. Trudeau was 30 years old when he put on makeup, black makeup, to impersonate a black musician. It is what it is. But I'm not making this up. This is reality. Now, we can look at what's going on in the United States, in Texas right now. And we can ask ourselves, any reason why the United States and the state of Texas wouldn't dare to let in 15,000 Asians asking for asylum? Why wouldn't they let these 15,000 Asians in? I'm asking that question, of course, because it happened to be that I was born in Haiti. And I think that's a rightful question, right? It's my own country. But the fact is, I was adopted by a French Canadian when I was 4 years old. Now, does that make me more of a Canadian? And by the way, I grew up as an American. I grew up among an American audience when it comes to music, when it comes to all kind of stuff. Everything was related to the United States of America. Does that make me more of an American? You see, that's where I'm heading. That's the title of my lawsuit when it comes to multiculturalism. I proclaim that based on my life experiment and based on what Canada proclaimed to be, I decided to attack the fundamental of multiculturalism, and I decided to attack Mr. Justin Trudeau for what I consider one of the most grotesque and one of the most ridiculous acts ever. And I always thought that people in Canada, especially in Toronto, were the most idiot and stupid to re-elect a guy like Justin Trudeau after his blackface scandal made the news all around the world. If a news anchor like Megyn Kelly can lose her job over some black face, I would imagine that a nation like Canada would be smart enough to tell Mr. Trudeau to take his belonging and get the hell out of Canada Parliament. But that is not reality. In reality, Justin Trudeau just got re-elected once again. It shows you know a lot about Canada. Now I want to bridge the subject, of course, with what's going on in Texas. Here's what I'm proposing right now. There's 15,000 Asian locked under a bridge nearby the Texas border. Nobody wants part of that. And that includes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, what I propose is, ever since Canada is such a great country, now it's the second largest landmass in the world, right? It's a vast country. There's only 30 million people living in Canada. Believe it or not, it's about the same amount of people that live in California. But Canada is twice as big, if not 3 times bigger than the United States. Now, think about it. Why would they fly back home to Haiti, those poor refugees? Why would they send them to Canada? And Justin Trudeau could make, Justin Trudeau could help out those Haitians. There's plenty of Haitians living in Montreal. Why wouldn't you send them to Montreal in Canada? It'll be a perfect union out there. Their family is over there, and they'll be more than happy to help out this sibling. I would imagine so. Now, the fact of the matter is, I asked a very simple question earlier on. All right? When I said to you guys, I said, why would Texas not let in 30 or 50,000 Asians? The answer is simple. Just look back. Just look back at what Donald Trump said about Haiti. Donald Trump said, and I quote, Haiti is a shithole. So that's how Haiti is viewed from the Texans, right? Their leader, their former president, refers to Haiti as a shithole. So what do you expect? Are you gonna let in some people from supposedly a shithole country in your backyard with no papers? Ain't gonna happen. But if we look at the situation in Canada, it's got plenty of space, mountains, lake, rivers, etc. Why don't we send those Asians up in Canada? Why don't we have Drake and Justin Trudeau and a band, a live band? Why don't we have Drake and Eminem and Justin Trudeau welcoming their new fellow citizen in Canada, 15,000 nations. I think it would be a great moment for multiculturalism. But no, it ain't gonna happen. It's not the way multiculturalism work. So now that you're aware of what's going on with Canada, Texas, Haiti, and of course my lawsuit, and we talked about my website, don't forget to go check my website, atotalfailure.com, and we're gonna take a break, and after the break, of course, we're gonna talk about the news war that is going on in the United States. Because last time that we talked, we didn't touch the subject, but today, it's hot. We got a lot to talk about. We're gonna talk about strategy. We're gonna talk about CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. We're gonna talk about who's gonna lead the ratings and who did a great and who did a bad job the past week. So let's do it. Okay, this is the original Gangster Power Hour Podcast, and we're going to take a break. Okay, we're back, folks. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We left the last segment, of course, talking about Justin Trudeau and, of course, Texas and what's going on at the border with the migrants. Keep in mind that this is gonna happen over and over again, and now we're gonna get into it. So that means I'm gonna tell you exactly the psychology behind those cycles. We're gonna talk about what's going on in the news. So we're gonna talk about all the focus, who's got the better news, all right? Pound for pound, who's the best channel to get your news, who are the best hackers, who are the most vicious, who's attacking who. It goes fast, all right? But one clip really catch my eyes this week, and that clip is from CNN. And that particular clip, if you go on YouTube, they talk about a dad that lost his life to COVID-19, and they talk to the children that lost their dad to COVID. It is very, very, it grabs you by the heart. It's very, very emotional clip. It is a very emotional clip, and in that clip, at a certain moment, the commentator that works with Brianna Kalar, I don't recall his name right now on top of my head, but that particular announcer asked him, he said, what did your dad listen to on TV, in the news? Because supposedly their dad, who passed away because of COVID-19, was skeptical. He didn't want the vaccine, but at the very end, before he died, he said to his kid, he said, I should and I wish I had the vaccine. It is one of the most emotional clip that I watched it in a long time. It is very well done, but there's a tricks into it. And CNN formatted a perfect montage. The announcer at one point asked the children, he said, what your dad was listening to. And I want you guys to listen to the answer, and I'm going to roll the clip, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how strategic was it for CNN to put that clip on YouTube. Let's roll the clip.
Why was he so hesitant to get vaccinated, Katie?
There's multiple reasons, I think, one of which was some of the media that he ingested. He wasn't by any means far right. He was right in the middle, and he consumed media from both sides. And just some of the misinformation on one of those sides made him hesitant. So he was going to wait for FDA approval, but by the time that Pfizer had been approved, it was already too late.
And Katie, you said from one media source in particular, he was getting information that led him to be hesitant on vaccines. Who? I mean, who was he listening to?
He watched some Tucker Carlson videos on YouTube, and some of those videos involved some misinformation about vaccines. I believe that played a role.
Okay, so as you could hear, because probably you couldn't watch the clip, but as you could hear, they said that the kid said that he was watching Tucker Carlson. Have you noticed on how CNN was able to not only hit an emotional spot within their community, within their viewers, but it reaches out to the opposition because it's very touchy. We're talking about someone that was watching the opposition, Tucker Carlson, with misleading information when it comes to the virus and vaccine. So CNN was smart enough to bring a very tremendous emotional story on TV, and it's a real story. And they were, and CNN was strategic enough to fire one shot at the opposition, at Fox, their nemesis. It is one of the best clip of the week. This is the top clip of the week. It reached out emotionally, and it convinced you maybe to go get vaccine. So CNN hit 3 home runs. They fired at Tucker Carlson and Fox News. They bring emotion, so that means they reach out beyond their pool of their normal audience, and as well they promote the vaccine. They promote that as, hey, go get vaccinated, which is CNN duty, of course, to promote that, because CNN is on Joe Biden's side. Now, I would go and say that it is a strategic move on CNN, and I don't blame that for that. A lot of people out here that are tuning in to different kind of podcasts and different kind of TV shows don't realize that behind the scenes, all those TV shows, all those podcasts are scripted. Mine is not. Believe it or not, I just trigger the button, I just play, I just press record, and I go along with my thought, and I talk through my heart, I talk through my soul, I talk through my veins, my heart, my soul, and I think it makes a big difference because it's organic. You can feel it. You can feel the electricity when I'm talking, when I'm pissed off, when I'm mad, when I'm more, I would say, intellectual, when I cool down a little bit, when I introduce something, when I make a bridge. You can tell that my mind is working. Now, when someone is reading, when someone is reading off a teleprompter and his eye are focused on that teleprompter, you can tell if you are an expert. What's going on? You can tell if it's organic or not. When you have someone live with no script, you can tell that it's more organic, it's more the end. First of all, there's something about having someone that is capable to go on record without any notes. It just amazed me on how someone can have a conversation and can be not boring, but can be, very. It's always impressive to me to see someone being able to catch an audience, all right, for a very long amount of time without a script or note. these are really entertainers in my mind. Now, I don't want to deviate, and I want to refocus on what I said regarding when you see live show, when you hear podcasts, when you go on XM radio, for example, and you go on different platforms. There's always a concept behind podcasts, or there's always a some kind of frame, a direction. Now, what people don't realize is that people that we see on TV they're readers. They read a script, they read what's written for them to read. And these people need to be really convincing sometimes, because not only that they take on the news anchor, a title, but they became a salesman as well, because they have to sell. They have to convince you that it's real, that it's not lying. So I want to close that segment, guys, because it's been a fantastic week. It's been a great week. I want you guys to think about what I said when it comes to TV ratings. Now we're in the middle of a cultural warfare, and it is a war over ratings, supremacy, and freedom of speech. And I want you guys to keep on focus, because this week's going to be important. We want to know what's going to happen with General Milley. All right, what's going to happen with General Milley? Is he going to be punished lightly, or is he going to lose his job? What's going to happen with the new PAC alliance of Joe Biden, Australia, and Great Britain? What's going to happen with that? Now we're going to focus as well on the crisis at the Texas border. We got plenty to focus. So who's going to lead the way this week? Is Fox going to step up and bring their best week ever, or CNN are going to keep up and being unstoppable, or maybe does MSNBC is going to come out of nowhere and wham and be number one? It could happen. And don't forget that ABC got one of the highest rated cable news show. So ABC is always a threat. They're always there. They take a lot of space. People know them, and they're very well prepared. So it's going to be a war this week like never seen. Who's going to come out on top in the ratings? I don't know. I cannot tell you in advance. This is too tight, but you gotta watch what I just did. Texas, border, migrants. You gotta watch China, General Milley. You gotta watch what's gonna happen with the vaccine. Very important. Those vaccine, passport, paper, whatever you call it, are gonna happen, and people are not gonna be happy. So I think if I look forward, that there will be some very interesting development when it comes to that. So without any further ado, I have to let you go for this week, but I'll catch you up next week for another edition of the original Gangster Power Hour.